Hey, welcome in, everybody. It's the Arrowhead Addict podcast, game preview, COVID edition. Patrick Allen, Matt Verderame, Sterling Holmes, Matt Connor. We're all here. Let's get some business out of the way right away. Hit that thumbs up on the YouTube channel if you're watching over there. Appreciate that. Leave us a 5-star review over at Apple Podcasts. Always appreciate those. We'll be reading some of those later. And if you're interested and you like this podcast, you can actually join. You can become a member. We've got a membership set up. The Discord, private Discord's been up for about a week now. We've been having a blast in there talking Chiefs with some of you guys. If you're interested in that, not required. If you want to get a little extra Chiefs talk, check it out. And that you can hit the join button on the YouTube channel. Okay, let's get into it. Matt Verderame, the Chiefs have a COVID outbreak. It's really, really bad. You've been reporting. You've been on this really from the beginning. One of the first people on it, actually. Hat tip to you. Not always getting the credit from some of those other national guys. Makes me mad for you, but appreciate you being on top of all of that. You're our inside guy. Why don't you give it the lay of the land for everybody who may not be up to speed on all of the bad problems that the Chiefs are having right now?
So they have 13 positive COVID tests. They also have 3 additional positive COVID tests for guys on the practice squad. So it's not even as though they can just call these guys up in the practice squad. They can't. They're positive for COVID. As of last night, they had 6 active players on the roster who were positive COVID, 3 from a week ago, 3 from yesterday, headlined by Kelsey, of course, Ward and Butker as well. I was told by a source close to the team that they really did not have symptoms or very mild symptoms at most. There was a hope and optimism that, hey, look, there might be a quick turnaround, especially with the new protocols. And that may still very well be true. This morning, I reached out and said, hey, any more positive tests? And kind of got an answer that indicated, can't fully say yet, but it's not great news. Well, it ended up being really, really bad news. So they now are dealing with literally a quarter of their roster, their active roster, on the COVID list, including a variety of high-profile players. And so, look, are they going to suspend this game? Will they not? Who the hell knows? I would suspect that the NFL is going to wait until the end of the week. And see if a lot of these guys test out, to see how many guys, the Chiefs get back. You also want to, if Mahomes is there and he is able to make it through this, do they just play the game because the Chiefs have him? There's so many questions that are unknown. But as we sit, does it get worse than this? Is this the worst it's going to get? That's the unknown question that I think is really going to determine how this week plays out.
Now, Matt, there's been some rule changes recently with the COVID protocols. Can you kind of give everybody the overview that might be still thinking about the old rules, that guys can come off quicker? There's random testing now. Like, what's the deal?
All right. So I'm actually going to try and pull this up really quickly because I know it, but at the same point, I feel like I've read it 900 times and it feels like I'm like, oh, I missed that the last time I read it because there's a million different little things in there and things. So essentially, look, it used to be that guys were tested a lot more often. Now, if you're vaccinated and you're asymptomatic, you're not getting tested unless you have symptoms. Now, you'd say, well, then why do the Chiefs have all these guys on the list? Because the Chiefs are one of the most vaxxed teams in the league. I think there's only maybe 2 players in the whole roster who aren't vaccinated. Don't hold me that exact number. I think that's what it is. So, look, with the Omicron variant just spreading like wildfire, the league basically tried to get out ahead of this a little bit and said, all right, look, if you're vaxxed and you're not symptomatic, we're not going to test you. Now, if you're unvaccinated, you still get tested every day. If you have symptoms, you have to get vaccinated, or you have to get tested rather, which is why Cole Beasley of the Bills, he is unvaccinated. He gets mandatorily tested every day. He came up positive today. If you're unvaxxed, you're still at a mandatory of 10 days minimum. So he will miss this week's game. Now, what goes on here? Now, look, so my understanding is for a player who's vaccinated, as Travis Kelce is, for an example, my understanding of it is, and I'm going to keep reading here as we talk, but my understanding is that you need 1 test to get out of it. And obviously you have to be asymptomatic. That's my understanding of it. So there's a quicker turnaround where before it had to be, well, you had to wait, you had to be asymptomatic for a handful of days. Then you had to take 2 tests. Not the case anymore. So look, there's a lot of information being thrown around because this is the first week it's in effect.
Right.
And there's just a lot unknown, but it is, Man, it is wild what the Chiefs are dealing with right now and what other teams in the league are dealing with. It's not just Kansas City.
Well, speaking of people that are tapped in and that are all over this stuff, Matt Connor, editor of arrowheadaddict.com, bringing you all the news. Matt, we know there's a lot of players. Who are the high-profile players right now that are on the COVID list that are in danger of not maybe suiting up on Sunday, if the game happens at all?
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs have 5 players who were voted to the NFL's like top 55 to 60 range in that like preseason 100 list. 3 of those guys are out, with Mahomes and Tyrann Mathieu as the only 2 who haven't been affected. You got to wonder if this stuff will continue to roll. Chris Jones already missed a game, is still on the list. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, plus a ton of guys that you're talking like rookie linebacker Nick Bolton just went on the list just a few minutes ago. So you're talking even like some of the great secondary level performers, Charvarius Ward, Rashad Fenton. If L'Jarius Sneed isn't ready to come back and play, who's playing cornerback? I just put out on Twitter, are we going to sign Bashad Breeland from the street and like jump him right into the game because there's like no one else to play right now? It's just it affects every level, every facet of the team. There's not an angle of this team that's not affected right now significantly by COVID. So, it's tough times.
And it just seems like, with each passing day, it's just going to get worse and worse. These guys are together. They've been practicing. This sounds like it's highly contagious, this variant that's going around right now. Sterling Holmes, when you look at this situation, like as a fan, as a media member, like what do you make of it? Do you think there should be some sort of larger pause? Like, how is this fair and balanced when some teams have had outbreaks, some teams haven't, and in a team like the Chiefs who have done everything they're supposed to do, they've by and large followed the rules. Most everybody's vaccinated. Like, what should be done here, if anything?
Dude, it generally just sucks ass. I don't know what you can do. You would think teams like Kansas City, Tennessee, Cleveland, Baltimore, teams have already had outbreaks. I'm surprised it'd be these teams that know what's at stake. These are playoff teams who are fighting for deep playoff runs. They know what's at stake. I guess the only silver lining is maybe they get out of the way early, the outbreaks, and they're fine come playoff season. But you would think teams that know what they're fighting for would take this a lot more seriously. I don't know what the best answer is. I don't know if the Chiefs game gets pushed to Tuesday. I would say if Mahomes comes down, I'm not putting out any juju, but I'm just saying if Mahomes were somehow to come down with COVID, I would be hard-pressed to see the NFL saying, yeah, we want Chad Henne versus the corpse of Ben Roethlisberger with no Hill, Kelsey, any of these dudes playing on Sunday. I can't see the NFL saying that's a good business decision because at the end of the day, what is the NFL about? Money. We know this. Yeah. That's why they changed everything from 2 to 1 days. They're trying to get players out there as quick as possible. They don't want to test vaccinated players because if they come up positive, then they have to test more often. It's a business. I don't know the best way to do it, but the NFL at the end of the day is not going to do anything to affect their bottom line.
Yeah, and I think even these recent changes, like Matt was saying, it's just sort of like they tried to – because, look, they know they can't – I think we're all sort of at the point where we're like, look, if the symptoms are mild, if everybody's vaccinated, if everybody's okay with it, just let them go. Like, just, like it's any other – like it's the cold, right? And obviously I'm not trying to downplay COVID or the seriousness of it, but, Chris Jones was on our chat the other night. He dropped in, seemed fine. A lot of these guys are asymptomatic. But the NFL can't do that. They can't just be like, you know what? We're going to pretend that COVID doesn't exist. We're not going to test. No safety. Like they can't. They'll get killed. They'll get killed in the court of public opinion. The union's not going to like it, right? If guys start getting sick. So their hands are tied. I do like them moving back the games, but we saw just last night with the Cleveland Browns, they still had 18 guys on the COVID list, couldn't play, including their starting quarterback, including their backup quarterback. And they just lost a game that was pretty much, that was a death blow to them, right? For making the playoffs, most likely. They got to play the Packers next week. And this is impacting in an uneven way the home stretch here of the NFL season. And like, I'm pissed. I'm so frustrated as a fan. I'm so sick. Like, we have to preview the game in this podcast. I don't even know how the hell we're going to do it because I have no idea who's going to be even playing. Like, I might as well be, previewing the Chiefs practice squad versus the Steelers practice squad and a 7-on-7. I don't have anything else to say about this. It sucks. It's horrible. Do you guys think that any of these guys are going to be able to get back in time?
Yeah. I would say don't start freaking out until Saturday. I think that was a good point from Josh right there in the stream. I agree. It's only Tuesday. I would say it's twofold. One, don't start freaking out until Saturday comes around, but also it's Tuesday. There could be a lot more cases coming out in the next few days. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if I were the Chiefs, I would shut down that entire building. I'd send everybody home, and I'd tell them, see you Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, whenever the hell this game gets played. That'd be it. I mean, the problem they've got is this variant, by all indications, is very transmissible, and they were all on a plane to and from Los Angeles less than a week ago. I mean, that is tough. And by the way, I've seen in the chat up and down, like, hey, this was, California. Guys, they had COVID before they went to California. Like, this has nothing to do with the state of California. This is to do with COVID being in the United States of America. And look, people get it. People get it. Luckily, the Chiefs are a very vaccinated team. They have one of the highest rates in the league. But they're dealing with a full-on outbreak right now. And you have to deal with this. Now, I got to tell you, if Mahomes is there and the offensive line is there, which is a question, is now it has creeped into the offensive line room, I think the Chiefs are still going to win the game. I mean, Pittsburgh, to me, if the Chiefs get to 17, I think they're going to win the game. But I'm serious. Like, I think the Chiefs might only need 10. But that being said, I mean, like you just said, and you put it perfectly, Sterling, like, it's Tuesday. So it could be like, hey, it's only Tuesday, or oh my God, it's only Tuesday, and they could have 30 guys on this thing. Now, the good news is, look, you can now, I was just reading up on the rules a little bit, you can test out in a day. You can test out in one day. Like, and I'm just using him as an example, but because I know he's vaxxed. But Kelsey can wake up tomorrow, and as long as he's asymptomatic, take a test, boom. If he's negative, he's out. So now, would he be negative that quickly? Yeah, who knows? But they have time. But let's also be real. You know what? Look, Tom, nobody's going to die from COVID. I mean, people have died from COVID. It's probably not likely that one of the players died from COVID, but the NFL can't quite go that far. It is what it is. This is the world we live in. And if the Steelers were going through this, Chief fans would be like, hey, play the game. What are you going to do? Right? So let's not BS it. It's the same the other way. And this is the bottom line. This is the bottom line. You're in a COVID time. They have to deal with it. They've got to figure it out. Hopefully they get a bunch of guys back. If they don't, if they get postponement, great. If they don't, then they go out there with who they've got and they try to win a football game. That's it.
It comes down to, how do you want to view it? Do you view this vodka as glass half full or glass half empty? That's what you got to come down to. Did
you just say glass? How long you been drinking that vodka?
Vodka waters, baby.
Was it once a full glass of vodka? Yeah, look, I think, and I see some of the comments. Obviously, we don't want to devolve into the whole political discussion here, but I think, look, the players have concerns, and while they may not be concerned about, getting it because they're young and they're probably not going to have any bad symptoms, like, everybody has a different situation. They have family members that they want to see for the holidays. Mahomes has a baby girl at home. She can't get vaccinated at that age, right? So, he doesn't want, like, this is a scary thing.
More considerations than just the athlete, too.
Just the athletes and just the football. And I know we all want, let's
not
games.
Let's not be, cavemen about this either.
Yeah.
This is real life, too. It goes beyond just a football game.
Yeah, I think this even goes into, like, the way we view the Steelers. I think that's what's great about even our podcast is I think we try as best as we can to avoid the extremes of, like, this guy sucks, this guy's great, this team is horrible, this team's whatever. And so I could, like, with a subject like this, it's going to be nuanced. There's 100 layers at work. There's a million questions we don't know. I think it's okay for us to say we don't know, and that there are many things that come into play, and that it's okay if they play to some degree, and for some other reasons, we can also see why it's hard for them to go out on the field and play, and all of that is true. And our ability to hold that stuff in tension is what's going to make for better conversation than like just pretending that one whole side of the argument doesn't exist or the other. I think that even comes into play in the way we talk about the Steelers. I mean, Matt notwithstanding up there, but but Andy Reid will say week in, week out, look, winning in the NFL is hard. We saw it for the first third of the season. I don't want to pretend that like Patrick Mahomes and a bunch of like a roller derby team could go out there and just slaughter the Steelers just because they're, quote, the Steelers. They're a 500 team. They beat teams that even beat the Chiefs. I mean, So I just don't want to remove the nuance from any part of the conversation, whether that's COVID or the game of football. And if that's less boring because I'm not going like Ryan Clark or Colin Coward in here, I guess that's that.
If you want, we do try to be pretty nuanced on this podcast. If you want to break that, let's just have Verderame do 10 minutes on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think they're going to get much nuance in that conversation. Maybe even the Lions, although good win for the Lions last week. Good for them. Easy to pack it in this time of year when you're on a team like that. All right, let's get to football as best as we can. So the Chiefs are the top seed in the AFC. There's good news for now. The Chiefs are alone at the top of the AFC. Now, we talked about this on our post-game show after the Chargers game on Thursday, but more things happened as the football got played. We saw the Indianapolis Colts knock off the New England Patriots. And then we saw who else lost that we needed to lose?
Tennessee.
Yeah. That's right. Tennessee loses. And they've got another tough game coming up against a surging 49ers team. So everything the Chiefs wanted to happen happened. So now they're in control of their own destiny. If they went out, they're the one seed in the AFC. They get the bye. They only have to win 2 games to get back to the Super Bowl. That's it. It's cut and dry. Unfortunately, it's not simple. Let's just go around the horn with quick predictions from everybody. We'll start with you, Matt Connor. Are the Chiefs going to be the number 1 seed when the season is over?
Yeah, I think so. Although last week I thought I did not think the Patriots would lose. I didn't think the Titans would lose this quickly. It's like Moses has pointed his rod over the rest of the NFL, and every team like then gave way.
Yeah.
And then of course this week it's like God is like, nope, and then gives everybody COVID. So I don't know who's winning, God or God, but either way, it's an interesting thing. I think they stay in control. Why not? Because every other NFL team apparently doesn't even want it.
Sterling?
Yeah, if you were not a fan of the Chiefs, you had a horrible weekend. That was brutal for you. Not only that, then New Orleans goes out and says, hey, Tom Brady, here's a big fat 0 for you, just for good measure. But I do think Kansas City holds on to the 1 seed. I think Kansas City could lose one more game, and I think they're still going to hold into the 1 seed. I think the Titans have one more loss in them, and I think the Patriots have at least one more loss in them. I'm feeling pretty confident. I think Kansas City, like Matt said, no other team has wanted to take this one spot. They've found ways to hand it to Kansas City, and I think that, honestly, it continues.
Verderame?
I mean, who the hell knows? With
that's boring, Verderame. Are you serious?
What the hell do you want from me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, are they going to play a game this weekend?
Right.
Look, I'll say this. I think Tennessee and New England are losing this weekend. I do. I think both going to lose again. That might need to happen. I mean, look, everybody's like, well, they might test out. They might test out. The Chiefs might test out. But, like, Chris Jones was on this thing a week ago, right? Like, he tested a week ago. He's not back. I don't know what the hell's going on. Who the hell knows? Like, look, you know what the crazy thing is? All this shit. They're missing 1 million guys. They're a 7.5-point favorite over Pittsburgh right now. They're favored by more than a touchdown. They're missing half the team. It doesn't. So, I don't know. Look, if I had to bet my house, I think, I would think there's some combination where they do it. I will say this. Look, there's a lot bigger things in the world than football. Okay, especially when it comes to COVID. All right, and we've buried almost 1 million people at this point. But from a football perspective, it would just really suck if they did all this to come all the way back, and then it's like, nope, you lose to Ben Roethlisberger because of COVID. Like,
Right.
that would just be a. But again, that's life. That's what you're dealing with right now. It's the way it is.
Well, the way that this is spreading, the Chiefs are not the first, and they're not going to be the last to have one of these Omicron outbreaks, almost certainly. So, we'll see what happens. But I think all things being equal, with the schedule that they have and the way that they're playing, throwing all the COVID stuff out the window, yeah, I think the Chiefs should snag the number 1 seed. They could end up in a situation even this weekend where they end up losing because they're shorthanded, but the other teams lose too, and we all laugh because they end up back in the same spot that they were in before, and they run the table. But I think that they're the most talented team in the AFC right now, and I think they're playing the best football, especially when they get Chris Jones back. All right, let's get into this game. Chiefs versus Steelers preview. Before we do that, though, just a quick public service announcement for you. If you're listening to this on the audio version, you probably heard an ad right before the podcast started. Make sure you check out the Knuckleheads podcast over at the Players Tribune. They're sponsoring the show. They're good friends of ours here in the Minute Media family. The Knuckleheads podcast. If you like behind the scenes stories in sports, I mean, even if you're not an NBA fan, but especially if you are, it's a great podcast. They have the biggest of the biggest, the who's who of the NBA. I'm talking like guys like Kevin Durant, Shaq, you name it. Great NBA player. They've been on the Knuckleheads podcast. Great catalog. Their new season's out and live right now. So make sure you check it out. Head over to the Players Tribune or just search for the Knuckleheads podcast in Apple. It's one of the top sports podcasts out there. I think it's usually top 5, top 10. So make sure you check out Knuckleheads podcast and thank them for supporting our show. All right, let's get back into the game. Chiefs versus Steelers preview. So a few notes here. The Steelers are not a great football team. They're not a terrible football team, but they're not a great football team. They're well coached. They've got some good players. They're fatally flawed. They are 6-3-1 since October 1st. They've got key wins against the Bills, Baltimore, Cleveland, Tennessee. They've also lost to the Bengals twice. They lost to the Chargers in a shootout. They lost to the Vikings. They lost to Green Bay. They're kind of a team, I think, that plays to their competition. There's a lot of good veteran coaches on that team. Obviously, they got Roethlisberger, and they seem to be able to get up for games like they went, with the Chargers, 41-37, they lose that game. And the Steelers are not good at scoring. So let's get into the game, though. When you guys see the Chiefs offense going up against the Steelers defense, which was pretty talented, has some good players, but hasn't been as great this year as they have been in years past, at least when it comes to giving up points. What are you guys looking for in this game? I'll start with you, Verderame.
Okay, so that was a very nice way of introducing the Steelers to the group. I've watched the Steelers.
Here comes some nuance, everybody.
Yeah,
I think I've watched. Yeah, no, listen, I'm here for my measured takes, and I've watched the Steelers every game this year that they've played. Most of them I've caught live, one way or another. I feel like I've watched the Steelers a ton, and I got to tell you, I've really analyzed them. I've looked at them. I've thought about it. That team sucks. Like, I'm sorry. If the Chiefs lose to them, it's going to be because of COVID. It is not going to be any other reason. And here's the actual nuance behind why I think they stink. Roethlisberger's throwing for 6.7 yards per attempt, which I got to tell you, if you'll watch them, you're shocked it's even that high. Okay. 19 touchdowns, 7 picks. He's been sacked 33 times, mostly because he has the mobility of a statue. Najee Harris is the only guy who runs the ball for them. And I mean the only, in fact, the guy who has the next, Benny Snell has 18 carries. Najee Harris is 249. Harris is 891 yards. The man is averaging 3.6 yards an attempt, which is the equivalent of running 1 yard and falling forward. Okay. In the passing game, they have 2 guys who have more than 425 yards. Deontay Johnson, who's had a really nice year.
He's good.
Very good player. And Chase Claypool, who's a good player. Okay. Claypool has 1 touchdown. Johnson has 6. Now, Freiermuth is a nice rookie tight end, 422 yards, 7 touchdowns. Had a concussion last game. We'll see if he plays. He's a red zone target. Now, defensively, look, this is easy. Watt is unbelievable. Cameron Hayward, in my opinion, is a Hall of Fame defensive end or defensive tackle, rather. Between the two of them, they have 24 and a half sacks. They are a very, very good. I mean, they're a great tandem. In the secondary, Minkah Fitzpatrick is really good. Edmonds is a good player. The corners, you can beat them. This game is going to come down beyond obviously COVID. Okay. It's going to come down to whether or not the Chiefs beat themselves in this game. Like if they're even remotely healthy, I would be shocked, absolutely shocked if they lost. Now the problem, of course, is they are not remotely healthy. It's a disaster. But Pittsburgh scored 20 points on offense like 4 times this year or something like that. They can't score. So I think the Chiefs would have no problem with them if they had everybody there. I just have no idea if they're going to have anybody there.
Sterling, when the Chiefs offense goes up against this Pittsburgh defense, obviously they've got some players, right? Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt is in the MVP conversation for some. A lot of people think the Steelers would have one win if it wasn't for TJ Watt, the impact that he's made on their team this year. But when the Chiefs offense is going up against this defense, what are you looking from them? How do you want them to attack?
Score 21 points and then the game's over. No, I mean, just do what's given to you. You don't need to be extremely aggressive. I don't think we're going to need to see Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce, for that matter, have to make some incredible play, even if Travis Kelce's not there. Some other guy make some ridiculous play. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we'll probably see a heavy dose of Clyde, whoever's going to be there at running back. Steelers do not do a great job stopping the run. On the flip side, they can't run the football like Matt said at all. Every time I watch them, and you're right, the Steelers seemingly are on TV all the freaking time. The amount of times I see Najee Harris run into just an absolute wall and then fall down is incredible. It's like 13 carries for 19 yards, and they're still giving him the damn ball. I mean, again, it comes down to it. They have 3 extremely good players on defense. They're very good at making plays. They give up a lot of yards. They struggle to get off the field. As long as you take care of the football, I don't think the Steelers have a shot no matter who is playing for Kansas City.
Matt Connor, what are you looking for the Chiefs on offense in this game?
I'm looking for you to be unmuted.
Oh,
Nailed it.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to say, man. Like with COVID, I just don't even know what to add to what others have said. What I was looking forward to was seeing Tyreek Hill in this game. We haven't faced the Steelers since early 2018. And
Right,
what was
me too.
exciting for me was, Tyreek has always been a threat, always. But his maturation from, like, if you think all the years from 2018, 19, 20, and into this year, I was so excited to see how he would perform against the secondary as such a well-rounded player compared to what the Steelers had seen him before. They just hadn't. They'd seen Kelce before, but they hadn't seen this. They hadn't seen that duo. And so I was just licking my chops at, all right, I thought the Chiefs were going to, like, put the number 1 seed in the bicycle basket. Not bicycle basket because I was picturing a motorcycle. But I just thought they'd, like, rev their engine to the end of the season before this COVID mess. And I thought the Steelers were going to be roadkill number 1. Now, now Tyreek's on the COVID list, and now we're going, I hope Josh Gordon comes back because he was early on the list. I mean, the whole thing just feels upside down to talk about in a way. But yeah, so it's hard to say. That's what I was looking forward to. And if Tyreek comes off the list, that thrills me to see him going against them after so much time.
Seems like a total crapshoot, right? I mean, Baker Mayfield went on the list kind of early in the week. They pushed the game back to Tuesday. He wasn't available. Chris Jones has been on it for a while, not technically back yet. So, and didn't have bad symptoms. Like, as long as they're testing positive, they can't get back. If the Chiefs are without Kelce, if they are without Tyreek Hill, and they're going into this game, who do they lean on? Is it a big Darrell Williams game? Is it a big Josh Gordon game if he gets back? Is it McCole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson? Can they get it done against the Steelers team?
No. I mean, those two guys have shown zero ability carrying offense. So no, if I were the Chiefs, I mean, look, now obviously again, it feels almost futile because everything's going to change 8,000 times over here in the next 5 days. But as it sits, I got to tell you, like they can still field their offensive line. They still have their guys there for the most part. I know Niang and Long are on the list. They could put Wiley at right tackle. I'm not kidding. I would line up and I'd say, you know what, guys? Pittsburgh, you've been giving up about 170 yards a game on the ground. Here it comes. Stop it. Stop us from running the football. We're not going to let Watt get involved in this game and wreck the passing game. We're not going to throw the ball to Demarcus Robinson 12 times. We're going to line up. We're going to put Burton in the backfield, and we are just going to run it and run it. And you are going to have to stop it. And at some point, play action off that. You throw the ball. Look, I get it. Like,
okay, Belichick.
No, I mean, look. Fuck it.
Two passes from Mahomes.
How do you?
That's a one.
You know what, though? How do you win the game? Like, Belichick's the master at that. He doesn't care how they do it. How do you win the game? Well, how do the Chiefs win this game? They're going to throw the ball to Byron Pringle against Joe Hayden. They're going to win that game?
Darrell Williams, wide receiver 2.
Right. I mean, that has no shot. Well, line up and just run the ball. I mean, the Lions did it for 200 yards to play to a tie. The Lions. Okay? We have seen teams over and over and over. Let's be honest. The Titans had no A.J. Brown, no Roger Saffold, no Julio Jones, no Derrick Henry, and they ran for over 200 yards. They pounded them. The only reason they lost that game was they turned the ball over 4 times. That is it. So if I'm the Chiefs, you're damn right. I'd line up and I would just run them over at the point of attack. That's what I would do. I'd shorten the game. I'd try to, and I'm not saying put Mahomes in bubble wrap. Like I'd still throw 25, 30 times, but I would run it. I'd try to get play action off that. I'd try to get them to stack the box a little bit. Then I'd say, you know what? We're going to hit him over the top with Gordon. We're going to try to hit him over the top with Hardman. To me, that's if they go into this game with what's currently going on and they say, we're just going to throw the ball to Demarcus Robinson 11 times. Like, that's how you lose. That's how you lose 13-10 and rush for 43 yards on 11 attempts.
What are the odds that if they do throw to Demarcus Robinson 10 times, he has 4 catches for minus 20 yards?
100%. As he's still running backwards from the last game.
Right.
I mean, you can't. You cannot play that way.
Could you see a situation where, you know, sometimes teams play the Chiefs a certain way, right? And they play the Chiefs very scared. Now, we say on this podcast all the time, teams do what they do. But could you see a situation where if the Chiefs go into this game shorthanded and they're without Kelsey and they're without Tyreek Hill, you know, and they go in there and the Steelers are like, all right, they're going to try to run it on us because, you know, and we're going to play a little bit tighter. And then they get burned by the speed of a McCole Hardman or Demarcus Robinson. I mean, we saw this early in Mahomes' career, right? Some of the best seasons that Demarcus Robinson and McCole Hardman had were before everybody knew how good Patrick Mahomes was. And those guys were getting, you know, left on islands and they were getting behind the defense. Could you see a situation where the teams make that, where the Steelers make that mistake if those guys are out and they try to play a little bit too aggressive?
It's possible. Play action has shown time and time again, almost no matter who's at quarterback, you can find a way to make it work. Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins thrives at a play action. Mahomes, I think, would be phenomenal. Just even the thought that you're going to run the football would open up so much for Mahomes. It all comes down to, is Andy Reid going to? How many times have we said this season,
right,
what do the Chiefs need to do?
Right.
Exactly. It all comes down to, what is Andy Reid going to do? And we can say what they need to do all we want. We're not the head coach.
Yep. You're right. They won't run the ball because of them. They'll run the ball 8 times. But I mean, if you go into a game with all these guys out and the Chiefs, I will say this. If you're going to go the other way, then the hell with it. Then just spread them out and just throw the ball quick, get it out of your hands, and let you try to get run after the catch. Right? Like, I almost think in a weird way, if you're going to throw, like if Andy just says, look, I don't care. We have Mahomes still. We have I'm going to throw the football. Then I almost think in an odd way, you're almost better off just spreading them out and just saying, you know what? We're not letting Watt and Hayward wreck the game. We're going to throw it there. I don't know if you guys watched that Steelers-Titans game. The Titans, if they didn't turn the ball over, they would have scored 30 points. I mean, just at will moving up and down the field. Short passes, running the ball. That's all they did. And you know what? I will say one thing. There is hope with Gay having had COVID, getting COVID last week. Jones, the same thing. Snead did not have COVID, does not have COVID. He just missed the game because of the death of his brother. They might actually be reasonably healthy defensively. I mean, I know right now with Ward and Fenton, I get that. Although with the way that the Steelers receivers are, the Chiefs might be able to match up. But do you just play the game and say, look, we're going to try to win 13-10? I don't know. But who knows? I mean, we could be sitting here in 3 days and be having a totally different conversation.
I wanted to ask you guys, and anybody, this is free for all, so grab it if you want it. One thing I noticed that the Chargers were doing against the Chiefs that I haven't seen a lot of teams do, and it led to an interception in this game, was they started sort of blitzing their linebacker or their end, but then they kind of have them sit back and try to fill that sort of outlet lane that Mahomes has been using a lot when teams have been playing that shell coverage. And on the one play, they were able to tip the pass, get the interception, and that led to a touchdown. And then if you notice later in the game, they did the same thing, and Mahomes caught it this time, and he pump faked. You guys remember that? Do you think that this is some new wrinkles that teams are going to try to throw at the Chiefs because they know that they're going to try to go to that short passing game a little bit? Nobody wants it.
I know. I just think that it all's going to come with game flow. Once Mahomes shows, like you said, the pump fake, once he does that, then the defense is going to adjust. That's all the NFL is. It's a chess match.
Chess. Yeah.
It's just a chess match. Once someone does something, they try to do something else. They'll adjust. I don't know if teams will continue this. Not like the Chiefs have some as solid as Darrell and Clyde are pass catching. It's not Austin Eckler who's getting 12 catches a game. It's not McCaffrey, not Alvin Kamara. I don't think, and again, maybe if Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are out, then we'll see some of the defenses play that way. But on a general game-to-game basis, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think they'll do what they do. I mean, one thing with Andy, like that's for better or worse, like that they're going to do what they do. They don't care. They'll change certain things out. And by the way, Ed, I see your question. If Vax players get COVID, how does that make sense? Vax doesn't work. No, it works because that's why a lot of these guys are asymptomatic and it's really mild and they're not having more severe conditions. I mean, that, look, it's a good thing that they've gotten vaccinated in the sense that, from a football standpoint, they come back a lot quicker. Like if you're not vaxxed, you're out 10 days, period. You're out. Yeah. See ya. So, no, it definitely helps. I mean, in a variety of ways. I'm not going to sit here and get into, but no, I think, if they're without Kelce and Hill in this game, I think they have to change the way they play. And I'll say this, though. It is interesting from this aspect. If you're Pittsburgh, how the hell do you game plan for them? What are they going to do? Yeah. Like, are they going to come out and pound the ball? Or is Andy going to go, I don't give a shit. Here comes Byron Pringle on a go route. Like, we don't care. I mean, now
with Chad Henne at quarterback.
Yeah. Well, look, Sterling, you bring
They'll
up
throw it
situation, right? Like they went into that playoff game against Cleveland is the perfect example of this. So Mahomes gets hurt. He goes out of the game with a concussion. At the end of that game, the Chiefs have 3rd and 14. Everybody in the world thinks the Chiefs, they're going to run the ball. They're going to take clock. Now they ended up running the ball because he scrambled, but he was going to throw it. Like they were going for a first down. He gets 13 3/4 yards. And if you remember that call, and I'm sure most Chief fans do, and I agreed with Tony Romo, like they got to the line of scrimmage and Romo's like, there is no way they're running a play here. He's like, just look at the body language. There's no way. And they snapped the ball and didn't even run it. They threw it. That team, that is one thing that's interesting. Not that you want to be in the situation, but you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how the hell the Chiefs are going to play if they don't have any of these guys. And if the Chiefs can fool them for a half of football, that might be enough.
Well, Verderame, you forget one thing. Andy Reid on that play call was drunk off Henne.
Oh, good Lord.
You're a disgrace.
Fire this
people
guy.
Canceling their subscriptions. No, but you're right. And Andy, one thing I like about Andy is he trusts his team and he wants to run his offense. He did it. He did it with Chad Henne. He did it with Matt Moore, who went and almost beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. The Chiefs were in that game. That was a close game, and Aaron Rodgers had to work a little bit of magic. But, those guys were taking deep shots, and they were hitting
the
Tyreek
Vikings,
Hill.
who were a playoff team.
Right. Exactly. So that's one good thing, Go ahead, Sterling.
No,
I think it was Matty C.
Yeah. Hey, I was just going to say, are we watching the birth of the Patrick Mahomes for MVP campaign right now? When Mahomes throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns on Sunday to a bunch of tin cans and empty bottles at wide receiver and tight end, we're going to go, maybe this was an elaborate plan to not only get the Chiefs the number 1 seed, but get this guy back in MVP contention. That's all. Dude. I'm a conspiracy guy, not about COVID and whatever, but about football. I think this is it.
Dude, that would be if they are without all these guys, but Mahomes plays and he just lights Pittsburgh up in this game.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that actually might be his MVP case. Like, he just comes out and destroys them in a game they have to have. Like, you know what? I've just learned in football, and you don't know. You don't know. Like, no, if he's out, then obviously it gets a lot tougher, all that. But like, would I be shocked if the Chiefs went in there with the current list of guys out they have now and found a way to win the game? No, I wouldn't. I got to be honest. I said it at the beginning of the show. Maybe some people weren't here yet. If they have Mahomes and they have an offensive line, I think they're going to win the game. Like, I really do. I think he will just do whatever it takes to win. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Steelers would find a way to beat the Chiefs and fine. But listen, this team has been in a lot of spots, and they've found a way to win a lot of these games. I mean, we all sat here before that Chargers game like, man, they're missing all these guys. What are they going to do? And they found a way. Like, they found now that's not what they're dealing with now with 13 guys. I get that. But we also don't know. They might, half these guys might be back. We don't know. It's the first week of the new protocols. We have no idea.
Yeah. And if you guys out there could do us a favor, if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button for us. We've got 50 thumbs up so far. We'd like to see 100. We'd really appreciate that. Help get more people in here. Okay, let's talk about the Chiefs defense versus the Pittsburgh offense. Now, I know the jokes aside, if I ask you guys, what's the defense need to do? I'm sure you're going to say show up. But the Steelers do have some weapons. Deontay Johnson, Harris is a good running back. I don't think they can really run block very well right now or do a lot on offense. What do you want to see from the Chiefs on defense against a team like the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger? How do you defend his helium balls? We'll go with you, Matt Connor. Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, Najee Harris, Matt brought up some of his averages earlier this year, or overall, and it's not good. The lines in the front line in Pittsburgh has been a mess, and they haven't invested anything of substance in the draft in like years and years. And I think it's been like a decade. It's just forever since they've like made big investments there up front. But that's not to say Najee still had good games this season. Detroit, Cincinnati, Denver. Some of these teams aren't the greatest, but Najee's put up some good numbers at times, and I don't want to pretend that he can't do the same if the Chiefs were down. If Jones is out, if Willie Gay's out, I'm a little disturbed again at what's going to happen there with what he could do out of the backfield. So to me, that's a big thing to watch. I think they can take out Johnson. Hey, does anyone know the status of their tight end of Freiermuth and whether or not he's going to be? Is he looking like he's coming off that concussion, or do we know yet?
Don't know yet. He got a concussion on Sunday, or at least it's in protocol. He took a wicked shot.
Yeah. Because I was kind of thinking he looked like he could be out, which is really a huge part of what they could do offensively. So, in as much as Pittsburgh is watching Kansas City's COVID list and seeing what's up, the Steelers aren't without like a couple guys there who could also come into play, and watching them and their availability too. So I don't know. I think Harris can be a wild card versus the right team, and some of the Chiefs injuries can play into a bigger game for Harris.
Well, I'll say this. I'm looking at Harris's game log right now. He this year played every game. 4 times he's averaged 4 or more yards in a game.
Wait, Verderame, are you telling me drafting a running back in the first round doesn't automatically change the running game?
I got to tell you, we have a little experience with that. It's not great.
Yep.
And
boy.
one of those games, by the way, he rushed for 62 yards. Now against Denver, he lit him up 122 and a touchdown, 5.3 yards a carry. Detroit, as you mentioned, Matt, 105 yards and 4 yards carry. That somehow didn't earn them a win against Detroit at home. In Minnesota, 20 carries, 94 yards. But listen, I mean, to me, especially if the Chiefs can get Jones and Gay back, I think they'll be fine up front. Losing Bolton sucks,
Right.
but I think they'd be okay. And in the secondary, I gotta be. If they have live bodies in the secondary, I mean, have you guys seen Ben Roethlisberger throw a ball this year? It looks like someone trying to throw a car door into a wind tunnel. I mean, it is impossible.
Do you have a list of these that you just like?
I got a lot of shit floating through my head. I mean, I'll
That's
tell
why
you
he's got a
the
fan
truth.
page.
I'm always one of the people say I play aggressive, go after them. I wouldn't blitz them once. I wouldn't. I would sit underneath zones, man up. I'd switch, between man and playing a lot of guys underneath. I would not play one time with too high. And I'd be here, go ahead. Like Brendan, if we're talking about Roethlisberger, bro, he's not hanging 50 on anybody. Okay. Nobody. He's not hanging 50 if he's got 120 minutes to do it. Like they are rancid offensively. Rancid. Yeah. So to me, regardless of who's there, who's not, look, you rush them with 4. You occasionally run blitz them, but really it's a lot of playing with 4, getting pressure with 4 against what's a bad offensive line. It's sitting underneath. It's taking away the short stuff. And it's saying to Roethlisberger, hey, man, you go ahead. You want to throw the deep ball? You go right ahead and do it. You go chuck it. Especially, by the way, to me, on the shorter stuff, play inside leverage. You want to try to throw an out route? Go nuts. Because if you throw it short, you're getting picked off. Like I would play inside leverage the whole way. I tell the safeties to play wide because if they want to run a little out and up, make him throw the ball deep down the field. You want him to throw the ball down the middle between the numbers. Ball is going to hang up there, gives you more time to converge. And on routes 12 yards and under, tell your corners, look, inside leverage, force them to the outside, make them run out routes, make them run corner routes. If they do that, that's a very, very hard throw for a guy with a bad arm to make. And if the safeties are playing wide deep, then he can't chuck it down the sideline where it's caught or it's out of bounds. He's got to have it. First of all, he's got to get a double move. Second of all, got to throw the ball back inside. You go right ahead. You go right ahead and chuck that ball deep down the middle.
I think the Chiefs have to be careful about drawing penalties in this game, specifically because of how bad Roethlisberger is at throwing the ball deep. He chucks it up. He's got, I think Claypool and Johnson are good receivers. They can go up and get the ball. I think if they had a better quarterback, the Steelers would be in a lot better shape. The Chiefs just need to be careful that they don't bail the Steelers out by panicking if they throw one of these jump balls. And what we've seen all across the NFL this year are the underthrown balls that lead to pass interference. I mean, it's just getting out of hand. And there's just nothing that these defensive backs can do when this happens. What is happening in the chat?
Big Ben can't get it there anyways, so don't get burned on that. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, don't panic. Don't panic. If they make a play, fine, but don't bail them out. Make them catch the ball.
Yeah. Deontay Johnson's incredible. You got to take him away. I think that's about the only guy you got to take away. Chase Claypool, I think you can get in his head. Just start shit talking him, and he'll try to do something stupid. Just get in his dome. First up, does Mike Tomlin need to get a Nobel Peace Prize for dealing with AB, Le'Veon Bell, Ben Roethlisberger, who seems like an absolute nightmare, and he's been there forever, Chase Claypool? It's like, holy hell, Mike Tomlin can't catch a break.
Yeah, I really like Mike Tomlin, and I have a bunch of friends. I went to school in Western Pennsylvania. I have a bunch of friends who are Steelers fans, and they're always like, he needs to be fired. They need to fire Mike Tomlin because he hasn't had a bunch of playoff success. And I keep telling them they're out of their minds. I'm like, are you crazy? You don't fire a coach with that kind of record that wins you that many games. Yeah, maybe he hasn't had the playoff success that you would like, but it just shows how spoiled they are. And I hope that doesn't happen to the Chiefs kingdom with the success that we're having now. But I guess we saw it earlier this year with the Fire Andy Reid crowd when the Chiefs were 3-4. So there you are.
Oh, I mean, halfway through the home game, we had people saying they should trade him. I mean, less than a week ago during the live stream. Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, can we get picks for him? So listen, it is what it is. You know what? This is let's just be real. Like, we are just gonna have to wait and see how all this crap shakes out. We just don't know. We could wake up tomorrow and there could be another dozen guys on this list, and then it's like, all right, this game's over. Or that was the big swing of it today. And then as the week goes on, you start getting guys back. But who knows? Who knows? You just don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I wish my wife, I should get her on the phone and ask her, like, how quickly can these guys test out? I do know the difference is, like, so if you go to like a Walgreens and get tested, it stays in your system like enough that the tests are sensitive enough that it'll show up for a while, even if you no longer have an active infection. Like, you can be, no longer able to spread it, not contagious. And like 3 weeks later, test positive on those tests. They're very, very sensitive. And I don't know all the mechanisms. I know from talking to my wife about it, like that's how they work. The rapids are much more, they pretty much only show up as positive if it's an active infection that you can spread. So those come back, those are a lot quicker of a turnaround. And that's, of course, what the NFL uses. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Can you turn around in 4 days? I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to our keys of the game here. Keeping things moving. We'll start with you, Sterling. What's your key to the game for the Chiefs on this one?
Stop Deontay Johnson. Stop him over the top. He's been pretty good, as bad as Big Ben has been, especially late in games. They're good at getting him the ball deep about once a game for some big touchdown. He's very, very good. Trust me, I'm in fantasy football. I'm in the playoffs because of him. It was a great late round draft. If you stop him, don't give up that big play to him. I just can't see the Steelers scoring anything more than 13, 14 points at most. That's my key.
Yeah, I agree. If the Chiefs pass rush is back, I mean, Roethlisberger's he never moved well. He was just big and could shake off tackles. Now he's basically the Tin Man out there, and the Tin Man, the version without the oil. Matt Connor, what are your keys to this one?
Will it be Tyreek Hill or Tyreek Ill? Am I right?
No.
God. All right.
Oh, God almighty. Yeah, Sterling has left the podcast on that one. That one did him in.
I'll leave it there.
Yeah, he's taking a trip to the bathroom. That's it. That's your analysis. Tyreek Hill needs to play.
I'll go with their front line. I'll go with Pittsburgh's front line. If they can actually provide any sort of protection or lanes for Harris, if the Chiefs are remotely healthy defensively, then that doesn't matter. But as things look right now, if they can provide some level of protection against a thinned out, especially at the second level, I think that's a concern.
All right. Verderame?
Can they protect Mahomes? It's it. To me, that's the whole game. If Mahomes is there, can they protect him? They do, they win. But do they? Again, like, you wake up tomorrow and 18 more guys. I don't know. But if they have who they have right now, can you protect him? If you can protect him, I think you're in good shape.
For me, I agree with Sterling. Don't let them get these big plays. Even though they're not a good offense, that's how they're going to take those shots. Roethlisberger's going to take those shots. He'll just continue to do that. So don't bail him out. Don't let him get something over the top. And then I just think of this game, Mahomes has to be great. They're going to be without some people. They'll almost certainly, everybody's not going to be back. They're going to be without some people. They're probably not going to have all their offensive weapons the way that they might like. And this is a game where the big differentiator is that you've got Mahomes. If you've got Mahomes, if he's out there, he should be able to find a way to win this game. They're not going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or one of the elite teams in the NFL. Mahomes alone with these guys that they'll have out there should be good enough. And he needs to go out there and take care of the football, right? He needs to be great, but not do too much. Don't let TJ Watt strip sack you, put your team in a situation. He basically needs to be Mahomes, fourth quarter Mahomes versus the Chargers. He plays like that, I think they can cover the spread. even without Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, because he's that good. All right. We've got some reviews to get to, and then we're going to give you our final score predictions for this one as best as we can. So you guys are the best. You head over to Apple Podcasts, you leave us those 5-star reviews, and we read them on the show. So we're just going to get right into it, and we appreciate you guys. This one comes from 15 Chief 15, best podcast in the Chiefs Kingdom. It takes a team, but Verderame is the star. How about that, Verderame? I was going to let you read this one, but I didn't want you to force you to read that. His hyperbole is hilarious, and the work he does league-wide brings context that strengthens his work as a Chiefs analyst. You all may call this suggestion hearsay, but Count Chocula on top of chocolate chip ice cream is exquisite. Wow, using exquisite in the vocab words. Yeah. My question is about the running game. It has been very tepid the last 2 games, and it makes no sense to me with the horses we have on the offensive line. Is it play calling, backs, missing holes, or are linemen not executing? Maximize your intake of empty calories with 2 great sources of sugar. Who wants to take that one? What's the deal with the running game?
I will say I think the offensive line's been fantastic. I think a lot of it is the running backs not hitting the holes. I think that Andy Reid doesn't typically focus on the run plays the way that, let's say, the Ravens do or the 49ers do. That's what those 2 teams are built on. But to me, I think the main issue is some of the vision from the running backs. We saw a couple times when Clyde bounced outside, like in that 5-yard touchdown run, how incredible that was. But we just don't see that with any sort of consistency. At least that's what I'm seeing on my end.
Okay.
I
agree. Yeah,
No, I totally agree. I think that's exactly what it is. There are times where there's holes, and it's like they don't hit them, they hit them late, and I also just think too the running backs getting into no rhythm because they'll have a drive where they'll run 4 times for 36 yards, and then Andy basically decides like we're not going to run the ball until next Tuesday, and it gets hard to get into a rhythm. But I think it's more play calling and sometimes the inability to hit the hole the way that you need to.
Yeah, they can be frustrating with their play calling sometimes. I'll add that sometimes it's the other team. I thought the Chargers did a really good job against the run on Thursday night. They're not a good run defense. The Chiefs ran all over them the last time they played, but they were doing a good job. They were coming off blocks and making tackles and sort of forcing the Chiefs to throw probably a little bit more than they wanted to in that game. Sometimes the other team steps up and has a good game. All right, next up, this one's yours, Verderame.
Okay, so title from first of all, it's from Kentucky, and it says, "I liked your analysis, but fair enough already. Fair enough. It is excruciating watching the YouTube show get derailed every 90 seconds to give a shout out to someone who donated via super chat. Is it possible to have a section maybe in the last 5 minutes of the show where you shout out supporters? I just stopped watching at some point last night after the Chargers game because I realized I was bored out of my mind. Matt and Patrick are obviously very knowledgeable, but the show needs a producer or at least someone to give it some structure at times." I will say I read this a couple days ago, actually, and it's not the worst idea. It's not the worst idea. That's totally fair. I get that. I actually think it's a pretty good suggestion. So I don't have any issue with it. And I appreciate the feedback, quite honestly.
Yeah, great feedback. And listen, the super chat thing is new for us, and much to your probably delight, nobody super chatted us during this show.
That's
so
right.
No interruptions. It's a new thing for us, and when we see that in the chat, we don't want to miss thanking the people. So we've been trying to jump to thank them. But great, appreciate the feedback, and we'll always we'll go into the lab and figure out a way to do it and make the show continue to flow. We definitely don't want to interrupt that. All right, next up, Matt Connor.
Connor, again,
you're muted, friend.
He'll figure out technology eventually.
To the rest of us. Still
mute.
You're back. There you go.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Read that review.
Yeah, I was a little quiet there. The Chiefs podcast is superior to any other, hands down. All 4 of you guys are the perfect combination of food takes, personal experiences, witty comments, hilarious rants, and everything Chiefs. I don't care what the negative commenters say. Wait, who is that? Anyway, do not change a thing. The 4 of you together on a post-game podcast is hysterical. Hope to see more of those. Thanks so much for taking the time to bring us both the YouTube and audio podcasts. Go Chiefs. Thanks.
Excellent. Yeah, I skipped Sterling's review. My bad, but that was another kind review. Sterling, you're up, my friend.
You guys are great by Treats74. Speaking of cereal, try to get Mahomes Magic Crunch. I mixed it with Count Chocula before the game Sunday. Great combo. Keep putting out the great content. You guys are highly entertaining and very knowledgeable. Thanks for the great podcast. Thank you, Treat74.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Next review comes from a former writer, but way back to my time as editor of Arrowhead Addict, our guy Victor Wishna. This is incredible. What an absolute joy to rediscover AA and see what it has become. With a podcast where the Schwartz brothers and Joe F. and Montana come to chat, and just in general offering the best Chiefs commentary in any form. I miss the days when I got to write Edgar Allan Poe parodies about the Baltimore Ravens, Shakespearean sonnets about Romeo Cornell. Good Lord, those were the days. And silly grade school Valentines to Todd Haley for the site. Those were good times, but nothing compared to the great times Chiefs fans are experiencing now, and Arrowhead Addict is part of that. Victor, I hope you're doing well, man. It's been a while. Drop me a line, buddy. Miss you. All right, Verderame, last review.
All right. Level and Tilted by Disappointed DW. Best Chiefs podcast out there. They mix the level-headed analysis that you would want when listening to pre-post game breakdown with the emotional catharsis you need when something frustrating or exciting happens. Great stuff. So thank you very much, first and foremost. Second of all, I've noticed a theme throughout a lot of these. Count Chocula, which I got to say, glad to be part of the movement. Also, what the hell? Shouldn't we be getting a sponsorship from them? I mean, at some point here, they've got to be like, what the hell's happening, right? Like there's a spike in Count Chocula getting bought in the Midwest.
Yeah.
This is bull. I want my cut, and I certainly want some kind of recognition and a sponsorship. So we have to get on their ass about it. It's unacceptable.
I think they already sponsor the podcast Cereal. Sorry.
Oh, there it is. We're going to be losing viewers like crazy.
I mean, my God, seriously. And I'm going to be one of them.
I thought I had bad puns.
You do.
Yeah. He's one up to you. All right, everybody. Thank you for those reviews. We try to hit them all and appreciate all the feedback, both the positive and the negative. We also got a super chat before we get to the final score predictions from Edward Caldwell. Appreciate you, Edward. Considering Tyreek's work ethic, he didn't look like he's been using the jugs machine at practice catching Mahomes' bullets. You know what? I feel like these things, he's generally a pretty sure-handed receiver. It's been a bad year, right? Kelsey's had a lot of drops. Kelsey's not a drops guy. Sometimes I think it's one of those things about like statistics and probability, right? Like if you flip a coin 100 times, you could have a stretch where you get 25 heads in a row, and that's an anomaly, and it's going to even out in the end. And I think that, this isn't a baseball season, right? So sometimes you have these little slumps, and I think Tyreek Hill, you see the kind of shape the guy's in. I'm not going to question his work ethic.
I wouldn't.
For a second. So I just think it's one of those things. It's been a rough year for him and for Kelsey, and I'm glad they got it out of the way early.
That's true. Although I will say, and Ed just pointed this out, I think what he was saying was that he's been doing a hell of a job getting better at catching the football.
But my bad. I read that wrong.
I agree. And look, the last couple weeks, I haven't dropped passes.
Yep.
And shocking, they're scoring at will. Like, what do you know about that? And they still turn the ball over twice because that just apparently never stops. But stop dropping the ball. Stop taking penalties. And yes, the last couple of weeks, Hill, Kelsey, they've been a lot better. And all of a sudden, boom, 48 points, 34 points. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and we know how hard these guys work. And you're right, Ed, and sorry for misreading your question. Probably did stay after practice a little bit, hit the jugs machine just to make sure you tighten things up and get the focus. And I think confidence is a big part of that too. This team wasn't playing well. Sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now they get a couple victories, a couple hard-fought victories, and they get their swagger back a little bit. And now they're not thinking as that ball is coming in so much. They're just catching it and doing their thing. All right, let's get to final score predictions, everybody. I know this is difficult, but let's give it a go anyway. It's completely crazy. You could have Chad Henne starting. Who the hell knows? But going into this as things stand now, because that's the only thing that we can do is take things how they stand now. Let's start with you, Matt Connor. What's your final score prediction for Chiefs Steelers on Sunday?
I will go. There's 16 players currently affected by COVID, so I'll say 16-6 Chiefs. One in solidarity for every player currently affected with the virus.
I love it. That's a win, so I'll take it. Verderame, what about you?
First of all, thanks to Jaden for the late super chat here. Do I think Hill and Kelsey will play? I hate to be disappointed, man. I have no idea. I have no idea. No clue. I know that Kelsey was not having significant symptoms. I can tell you that much. I know he's vaccinated, but beyond that, man, I don't know. I can't answer that one. As for the score, I mean, with who they have right now, I'll say 16-13. They just win an ugly game. I got to tell you, though, they don't have Butker. So, like, if it comes down to a field goal, like, hope for the best, everybody, because no clue what the hell is going to happen. Like, no idea.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We didn't talk about Butker, but I haven't seen a report confirming this, but based on the clues, it sounds like Butker is not vaccinated because it's been reported that he's out for 10 days from people.
I have no idea if that's true or not.
I've seen reports that
I'm not saying it's not. I just don't know if it is.
Yeah, I've seen a couple reports from credible sources that seem sure that they weren't saying he wasn't vaccinated. They weren't reporting that. Nobody was reporting that. But they were saying he was going to be out definitely 10 days, which if you connect the dots on those reports.
Yeah, then you are reporting he's unvaccinated.
Yeah, but they didn't. I didn't see anybody say that. It was weird, which sometimes it can be with these things. Yeah, and that means that's a whole other wrinkle. They got a guy from the practice squad up there. You don't know what you're going to get, and in a game where you might not have offensive weapons, it's going to be tight. Boy, it makes me nervous. But Sterling, how do you think this one's going to play out?
Give me 23-14. Deontay Johnson's going to get 2 touchdowns to help my fantasy team, and the Chiefs still win by 9. It'll be fantastic. I think the Chiefs score 3 touchdowns. They kick a close field goal, and they miss 1 extra point. There's got to be one missed kick with a kicker named Elliott on Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, that's just – come on. That's just
son of a bitch. I'm still not over it.
Hey, Verderame, come to KC, pal. We'll get over it. You and I will drink a beer and have some Count Chocula, and you'll get over it. Come on.
I remember watching that game. No, I was a kid. I was 7. I remember watching that game with my father, and it was still like that age of innocence where you just root for your team and you don't have like a negative thought about your team or your team. And I remember Elliott lining up that third final field goal attempt, and my dad was sitting there and he's just muttering to him. So he's like, mother effing, he wasn't swearing, I'm sure, but he was like, this damn guy is going to miss this kick or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm like, Dad, maybe he'll hit it. And he just looked at me. He's like, no, he won't. And he just missed it. While I remember being like, oh, so your team really, it's not just your guys. Like, they can suck. And I learned that lesson 26 years ago, thanks to Lynn Elliott, as he missed it by, I don't know, 3 counties to the left. And good times.
At least he taught you a lesson. See?
Yeah. Hey, listen, guys, we gotta be careful saying that the LE name on here. We've not marked the podcast as explicit, and I don't want us to get kicked out of iTunes. There might be children listening. So for me, I'm with you guys. I think it's going to be an ugly game. The Steelers are kind of good at making games ugly anyway, and if the Chiefs are without some of their explosive players, I think I'm going to go Chiefs 16, Steelers 9. They don't get a touchdown in this game. 3 field goals from the Steelers. Chris Jones comes back, and they wreak havoc on the Steelers offense all day long. It's a frustrating day, and they're not able to get in the end zone. I mean, what the hell? We don't even know who's going to be playing, so it can't be wrong. All right, everybody, look, we appreciate you so much. If you see the guys in the YouTube chat, the folks with our guy Cheeto Freak with the with the green names and the little Arrowhead Addict logo, those are our members. So if you're interested in being a member and chatting with us in the Discord after the podcast is over, hit the join button. You can find out more information about that. Obviously not required, but we appreciate the support for the podcast. It's going to allow us to keep doing really cool things like we did on Thursday night where we did the live watch party, which was I want to thank everybody. I had the most fun I've had doing this podcast to date. And that's saying something. It was an absolute blast. And I know Verderame had a good time as well, even though he was miserable most of the game.
I always am.
Yeah. Yeah. And one last super chat from our guy, Jaden. Appreciate you, Jaden. Sorry I came late, but I appreciate you guys so much. You helped me analyze the game. Started my own sports podcast. You guys helped me out a lot. Hey, buddy, let us know when you get that thing fired up and we'll give it a plug on the podcast. All right. Any parting thoughts? We're not gonna see everybody again until after Christmas.
That's right. I'm going to be driving all damn night. So heading to New York the second this thing's over. A 14-hour trip.
Yeah.
Going through the fine city of Cleveland at about,
That's
I don't know, 1 a.m. That'll be fun. And
stop at a bar, get some Great Lakes Christmas Ale. Great beer.
There's a 0% chance I'm stopping in Cleveland unless the car breaks down and catches on fire.
Are you going to stop at when you're in Indiana? Are you going to stop at the RV Hall of Fame?
First of all,
you're going to drive by it.
First of all, the absolute worst. The worst, okay? The RV Motorhome Hall of Fame. If there's ever a time our country should fight against itself, it's at that place. Secondly, I gas up in Chicago or right outside Chicago purposefully, so I do not have to stop in Indiana. I try to get straight through to like Toledo, gas up there, stop in Erie, Pennsylvania, get some quick food, and then boom, 6 hours from there all the way home.
Do you know that Ohio and Michigan almost fought a war over Toledo? Can you believe that one?
What, as to who had to take it?
Yeah. Well, at the time, it was a super useful port city. And what ended up happening is that there was some mediation from the government. Ohio was awarded Toledo, and Michigan got the Upper Peninsula. So great move there by Ohio. You came out of it with Toledo. Yeah, that was rough. And Michigan gets the UP. Bad loss for my home state. Anybody do anything interesting for the holidays before we get out of here? Other than Verderame driving through Indiana?
Going to Brew Lab tonight for some trivia and beers.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, I got to try and retain the trivia crown. It was 80s night the other night I played. And came home with a dub.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Came home with the dub. And what year were you born, Sterling?
94. And I was in Florida. That's king of the old people. And I'm still out here slanging 80s knowledge.
Yeah, that is impressive and also depressing for me, and I know depressing for Matt Connor as well.
1980s. What was the logo for that trivia night? Like, was it in like Miami Vice colors and just a big mound of cocaine? Like, was that?
It actually was. When you got there, it was here are your little leg warmers, and here's also a little baggie of cocaine. That's how it was.
Ignacio says, "Thanks for the shout in the last podcast. I'm the one who pre-games with my daughter." And a bowl of Count Chocula, and then he
that's awesome.
Super chat. Yeah, that is awesome. Appreciate you, Matt Connor. Anything special happening? You gonna just celebrate in your closet there with your flannels?
Pretty much is like I don't leave this when you guys shut off.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if that's what you guys think happens, but I'm just still sitting here. So happy holidays, everybody.
wait until the next podcast. All right, everybody, we are gonna get out of here. Look. Here's the schedule. We're going to be here come hell or high water on Sunday after the Chiefs-Steelers game, if the game happens. If for some reason it doesn't happen, we're probably not going to do a podcast on Sunday. Just watch our Twitter feeds for information on things like that. But just make sure you stay glued. There's two things you need to do. You need to be following Matt Connor and the Arrowhead Addict Twitter account for Chiefs news, and you need to be following Matt Verderame because Matt Verderame has been on top of what's been going on with the Chiefs and COVID. So those are the three accounts you need to follow. If you want beer takes, music takes, things like that, follow me and Sterling. He's at Homestretch KC. I'm at R Patrick Allen. Matt Verderame's at Matt Verderame, and Matt Connor is at Matt Connor AA. We appreciate you guys more than you know. If you celebrate Christmas, have a happy Christmas. If you're celebrating Hanukkah, which I think is still going on, have a happy Hanukkah, and just a happy holidays in general. Appreciate
celebrate
you guys.
Whatever the hell you have going on.
Yeah, celebrate whatever, man. And hopefully celebrate the return of some of these Chiefs from the COVID list on Sunday. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Sunday, maybe. And as always, go Chiefs.